So much hate, but I love that. Act funny, I'ma give it right back. Bro, I mean right back, right back. I'm like a short knee, you gon' need an ice pack. Yikes, black leather with the chrome spikes. With the baddie on the back of a motorbike. Kinda fatty in them jeans, you know we like. If she on your love, brought you home last night. A little something turns into a big fight. Then we end up making love all through the night. Nice, I'm the tiger with a new stripe. I can do anything, just call me Mike. The greatest, pick one cause they all like. I have to be number one, that's the appetite. In control of my own life. I choose love over hate, that's what I feel like. Yeah, show me what I love at. Yeah, show me what I love at. Yeah, show me what I love at. Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. Whoa. Yeah, show me what I love at. Yeah, show me what I love at. Yeah, show me what I love at. Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back.
Powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to another edition of Unconventional Playbook, the Spotlight. I told you we're going to do a couple of these. We're going to be spotlighting people, just putting a little bit more focus on certain individuals, whether it's Minnesota Vikings, something to do with Minnesota sports, coaching, what have you. Some of you have already heard the news about Mike Zimmer and his article with Mark Craig of the Star Tribune. And I just want to get on here and touch on it and spotlight Mike Zimmer. The one thing that's going on in our world today, in our society today, is that we really promote crazy and things outside the norm. And we promote them as normal. And I look at the whole Mike Zimmer thing. And remember why Mike Zimmer was brought to the Minnesota Vikings? Mike Zimmer replaced Leslie Frazier as a coach, and I wasn't a huge fan of Leslie Frazier in terms of him being able to get the job done, getting our organization where it's supposed to be in terms of a Super Bowl. I thought he pretty much was a good defensive coach, probably wasn't the best head coach, had a flatline demeanor, and that was probably my biggest criticism of Leslie Frazier. But do you remember why Mike Zimmer was brought in? Mike Zimmer was brought in to bring the discipline. Mike Zimmer was the disciplinarian. We're gonna hire Mike Zimmer and we're gonna have more discipline on this football team. Well, to the people that made that decision, when you look at things that you feel weren't adequately getting done in terms of the discipline of the Minnesota Vikings, was this what you envisioned? Was Mike Zimmer's time with the Minnesota Vikings what you envisioned in terms of discipline? We're gonna have more discipline on this football team. Is this the result of discipline? So it's very easy when you're going through a tough time selling those wolf tickets to fans in terms of discipline, and that's essentially what was sold to the Minnesota Viking fans in terms of Mike Zimmer and their discipline. It's kind of the whole thing with Bobby Knight, coach of Indiana. All the stuff that Bobby Knight was allowed to do in terms of discipline with the Indiana Hoosiers men's basketball team. And it really didn't come out until he got fired. And then all the stuff came out about what was going on in that program with Bobby Knight. And yet, in some circles, he's heralded as one of the best coaches on the planet. You should research and hear and see some of the stuff that Bobby Knight did when he was the coach of the Indiana Hoosiers. But I'm not here to bash on Bobby Knight. Everybody has their own acquired taste. I'm talking about Mike Zimmerman right now. Mike Zimmer right now. When you look at certain icons in the Minnesota Vikings organization, one of those icons is Paul Allen. Paul Allen is the voice of the Minnesota Vikings. Paul Allen has his own talk show on KFan, has had his own talk show for a long time now, 9 to noon. I remember way back, I've been listening to PA for years. I remember when it was PA and Dubé. And then Dubé had to leave, and PA's been running this thing on his own and doing a fantastic job. PA is a pillar in the community. Great guy. I challenge you to really find somebody that doesn't like PA. Who doesn't like PA, man? Everybody gets along with PA. Well, within the article with Mark Craig of the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, they talk about an instance where I guess Mike Zimmer and PA, they owned a horse together. PA said something about Mike Zimmer that he didn't like, that he lost it with the whole Kirk Cousins thing. You like that, Kirk Cousins? I don't know if you remember this, but he came up and he grabbed him on the sideline, chest bumped him. Whatever Kirk Cousins did to Mike Zimmer, PA commented on it. And Mike Zimmer had a hard time with some of PA's comments, man. So he said, I just didn't like what PA said. We're supposed to be friends. Why you got to talk about me? Unfortunately, he said, I hold grudges. That's just how I am. Paul Allen made the mistake of saying that Mike Zimmer snapped on the sideline. And Mike Zimmer got so bent out of shape, he got upset with PA, bought PA out of the horse that they bought together, and probably has not spoken to PA since. He says, unfortunately, I hold grudges. Terrence Newman, who had been with Mike Zimmer, with the Dallas Cowboys, obviously he was with Mike Zimmer when he was the head coach of the Vikings. Terrence Newman, cornerback for the Minnesota Vikings. Mike Zimmer said that Terrence Newman was like his son. Well, when Mike Zimmer was out the door, Terrence Newman said that the Minnesota Vikings organization was toxic, had a toxic feel to it. Mike Zimmer said that really hurt him. He called Terrence Newman up, like any man would do, to discuss the comments, try to get a feel for where Terrence Newman was coming from. Now, keep in mind, Mike Zimmer said, this guy was like my son. Called him up. Terrence Newman said, well, that's the way I felt at the time. Mike Zimmer said, okay, then we're done. Now, this was supposed to be a guy that was like your son, and all that it takes is that for you to end that relationship, talking about we're done. It's crazy, man. That's Mike Zimmer. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying Mike Zimmer's had a tough time. Mike Zimmer's wife died. When he was trying to climb to the ranks of becoming a head coach, I mean, he had wanted these type of jobs for a long time. He wanted to be a head coach, and he had to claw and scrape his way to the top to have the opportunity to become a head coach. And then after he left the Minnesota Vikings, his son died. So he's had some tough times, man. And I don't begrudge anybody that's going through tough times or have had some tough times. Sometimes things don't come out the way you want them to come out. And there could be a possibility that that's the case with Mike Zimmer. Now let's go on. Mike Zimmer's head coach, Minnesota Vikings, didn't necessarily want Kirk Cousins. I can understand that. Being a coach, GM made a decision. You're the head coach. You want to be able to buy the groceries and cook the groceries. I get it. But it's no secret that there were times where he didn't even talk to Kirk Cousins. They never even met. You're talking about, as a player, the leader of your football team, the person that's supposed to galvanize the huddle and the locker room. And you're not talking to the guy. You guys should be in step. You're working together. Just think about how KOC operates and what his relationship is with the quarterback. And I know you can put labels on people all you want. KOC is an offensive coach. Mike Zimmer is a defensive coach. The key word here is head coach. You got to be able to coach everybody. And for you to not be communicating with Kirk Cousins is malpractice for the Minnesota Vikings. Then there's been reports that there were times Mike Zimmer and the GM Spielman weren't even talking, weren't even on the same page. How does that work? Think about the relationship between KOC and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. How do you not work together with your GM? How do you not talk to your GM? There's been reports that Spielman drafted Kellen Mond. Zimmer got up and left the draft room, left and went home. He was so upset. It's amazing what's coming out. You had various players. Kendricks, he's signed with the Dallas Cowboys, said that the relationship and the environment around the Minnesota Vikings organization was toxic. Now, I've heard reports that he and Eric Kendricks have talked. Zimmer and Kendricks have talked, and it's water over the bridge. They've had a conversation. Kendricks told Zimmer, well, that's the way I felt back then. And Kendricks compromised truth for a spot on the Dallas Cowboys, man. And I get it. I'm not begrudging Kendricks either. You got to get a paycheck. So you got to do what you got to do to get that paycheck. I get you. But I find it amazing that Mike Zimmer was brought in to install discipline. And what seems to me now that all this stuff that is coming out, it was pure chaos. And the thing that Mike Zimmer always gets caught up on, what really gets him upset, what really got him upset when he left the Minnesota Vikings organization, is that people said that he had a fear-based mentality culture. The culture around the Minnesota Vikings was fear-based, and it was toxic. That's what really got him upset. Well, when you look at his relationship with PA, and you look at his relationship with Kirk Cousins, and you look at his relationship with Kellen Mond and how he treated Kellen Mond, and you look at his relationship with Spielman, our GM, what else would you call it? Mike Zimmer? What else would you call the culture now that all this stuff is rising to the top, stuff that you're now bringing out a couple years later? What would you label the environment now? And here's the thing. One thing that I've always learned in my 51 years of life, misery loves company. So it's no surprise where Mike Zimmer has ended up. Dallas Cowboys. If there was ever a zoo of a program where the organization just isn't quiet and it's chaos every year, and you have a coach in McCarthy that's on his way out, I mean, this is going to be McCarthy's last year as the Cowboys head coach, barring him not winning a Super Bowl. And Mike Zimmer is just waiting in the wings. McCarthy, do you really want that in your locker room? All this stuff that is coming out now is just non-professional behavior. Now, you're supposed to be a head coach. You're not talking to your quarterback. That's your choice. You're not talking to the GM. That's your choice. You're leaving the draft room. That's your choice. You're destroying good, strong relationships because people aren't saying what you want them to say. That's your choice. That's what's walking in the Dallas Cowboys locker room right now. And the cherry on top of the sundae is Jerry Jones. You know how he runs that Cowboy organization. He's always looking for a microphone, always looking for a camera. It's perfect spot for Zimmer. You're talking about a culture that is anti-calm, that is always noisy. If you buy into all the stuff that's coming out about Mike Zimmer, perfect spot for him. Perfect spot. He's going to fit in great with the Dallas Cowboys. But I'm going to tell you now, man, don't sell me no wolf tickets on Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer was a failed experiment. He was supposed to come in and bring discipline to the Minnesota Vikings. Nothing that has come out has sounded like discipline. Nothing that has come out has sounded like discipline of all the stuff that he was doing with the Minnesota Vikings. But some people will think he's a great coach. He's an acquired taste. We've made unprofessionalism in certain offices okay. There are certain jobs that you can obtain in our country where there should be a level of professionalism. There should be a level of tact. And as fans, we don't get a chance to see behind the curtain very often. But when certain entities leave, people open the curtain for you just a little bit. And I can't imagine what that environment must have been like for the Minnesota Vikings compared to what they have now. It's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. These guys climb to the top, and then they make these rash, hard, unthinkable decisions. And that's essentially the type of organization that Mike Zimmer ran when he was with the Minnesota Vikings. Think about that. Mike Zimmer, if you have problems with the label toxic organization, just go back. Stuff that came out of your mouth that you're letting us in on, just go back and bullet point everything that you've been talking about and tell me what other label you can put on that besides toxic. It's no wonder you couldn't win. It's no wonder you couldn't win. We're going to bring Mike Zimmer in to restore the discipline of the Minnesota Vikings. The discipline. Okay. Man, this has been Unconventional Playbook Spotlight on Mr. Mike Zimmer. Unbelievable stuff that came out. We're moving on. We got KOC, we got B-Flow, we got Kwesi. And I think the Minnesota Vikings are better for it. It's been Unconventional Playbook. Hit that like and subscribe button. We will see you when we see you. Latre, take us home.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm a man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am?